Hi, I'm Monica. Today, I'm going to read you the story of Monica, which is titled like this. My sister humiliated me in front of everyone just because I gave her a $100 bracelet. She laughed. I don't need such a beggarly gift. My parents sided with her, so I kept quiet and left. 2 weeks later, they found out I bought an apartment. Well, let's go. I stared at the small velvet box in my hand, wondering if Kate would like the silver bracelet inside. The bracelet had cost me exactly $98.75, just under our $100 limit. We'd all agreed on it last Christmas. No expensive gifts for a couple of years. Dad had announced, while we were all gathered around the tree at my parents' house, we could all use the money for more practical things. Everyone had nodded in agreement, Mom, Kate, and me. I remembered Kate saying, "That's actually a relief. I'm saving for a new car anyway." Mom had smiled and added, "It'll make the holidays less stressful too." For me, the agreement was perfect. I'd been quietly saving for a down payment on my own place. Renting was getting old, and at my age, I wanted something that was actually mine. But I hadn't told any of them about my apartment hunting. I wanted it to be a surprise when I finally found the right place. I wrapped the bracelet box in Kate's favorite color, teal, and tucked it into my purse. My own birthday 2 months ago had been a quiet affair. Kate had given me a scarf that couldn't have cost more than $40, and my parents had pulled together to buy me a set of coffee mugs and a bag of fancy beans. All practical, all under the limit we'd agreed on. I'd been perfectly happy with that. The drive to my parents' suburban home took about 30 minutes from my apartment in the city. As I pulled into their driveway, I noticed there were already at least 8 other cars parked along the street. Kate had always been the social butterfly of the family. Monica, finally. My mom rushed to the door when I walked in, pulling me into a hug that smelled like her signature perfume and whatever she'd been cooking. Kate's been asking when you'd get here. Kate spotted me from across the room and waved, her smile bright beneath her perfectly styled blonde hair. At 29, my sister had always been the pretty one, the charming one, the one who made friends effortlessly. I loved her, but there had always been a subtle competition between us that neither of us acknowledged out loud. The birthday girl wants to open presents before dinner, Mom announced, and everyone migrated toward the pile of colorfully wrapped packages on the coffee table. Kate sat cross-legged on the floor like a kid at Christmas, though the glass of wine in her hand reminded everyone she was very much an adult. "Who's first?" she asked, scanning the crowd. Our cousin Jen handed her a gift bag. "This one's for me and Mike." Kate pulled out a scented candle set and matching lotion. "Oh, I love this brand." "Thanks, guys." One by one, she worked through the pile, a cookbook from a coworker, a gift card to her favorite restaurant from our aunt and uncle, a cute, succulent garden from her friend Alicia. My parents gave her a set of wireless earbuds, not the expensive brand, but a decent mid-range pair that probably cost around $50. "Now Monica's," Kate announced, reaching for my teal package. I felt a strange flutter of nervousness as she tore into the wrapping paper. Something about her expression, an expectant gleam in her eye, made me uneasy. The moment she opened the box, I knew something was wrong. Her smile faltered, just for a second, before freezing in place. The room seemed to grow quieter. "It's a silver bracelet," she said, lifting it from the box. The small charm dangled, a tiny silver K that I thought was a perfect personal touch. "I remembered you mentioning you wanted some new jewelry," I said, suddenly feeling the need to explain. "And the K charm made me think of you." She held up the bracelet for everyone to see. "My sister got me this cheap bracelet for my birthday? Monica, are you out of your mind?" The room went completely silent. I felt 20 pairs of eyes on me. "Kate, we agreed at Christmas, remember?" "No expensive gifts," I said, my voice sounding smaller than I intended. "You got me a scarf for my birthday, and Mom and Dad got me mugs." We all decided. "That was just a suggestion," Kate interrupted, her voice rising. "Not a mandatory rule." God, Monica, I'm your only sister. You couldn't fork out a little more for my birthday. I looked to my parents, expecting them to back me up, to remind Kate of our agreement. But Mom was looking at me with disappointment. Monica, your sister does have a point, she said. You could have made an exception for her birthday. I felt like I'd stepped into some alternate reality. But we all agreed, and none of you spent more on my birthday 2 months ago. Kate's face had morphed from disappointment to disgust. She tossed the box back at me. It hit my chest and fell to the floor. I don't want your beggar's gift, she spat. I deserve better than this, Monica. You know that. My parents nodded along with her words. I felt my throat tightening, tears threatening, but I refused to cry in front of everyone. I bent down to pick up the discarded bracelet. I think I started, ready to tell Kate exactly what I thought about her tantrum, but my father stepped forward and gripped my arm. Monica, he whispered harshly in my ear, don't make a scene. Pack your things and leave now. I looked around the room, at my sister's smug face, at my mother's disapproving frown, at the curious and pitying glances from the guests. Without another word, I grabbed my purse, turned on my heel, and walked out. The drive home passed in a blur. It wasn't until I was safely inside my apartment that the dam broke. I sank onto my couch and burst into tears. Not just because of the humiliation, though that was certainly part of it, but because of the familiar pattern playing out yet again. Kate had always been the golden child. When we were kids, she'd break something, and somehow I'd end up being blamed for not watching her carefully enough. When we fought, I was the one who should know better because I was older. When Kate wanted something I had, my parents would convince me that sharing is caring, though sharing seemed to only go in one direction. I thought we were past all that. We were adults now. But apparently, nothing had changed. I made myself a cup of mint tea, my go-to comfort when upset, and checked my phone. No messages, no apologies, nothing. Fine, I whispered to my empty apartment. If that's how it's going to be. I scrolled through my contacts until I found David, the realtor who'd been helping me look for an apartment. For 2 weeks, we'd been searching, but nothing had felt right yet. I hit the call button, not caring that it was nearly 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. To my surprise, David answered. Monica, everything okay? Sorry to call so late, I said, my voice still rough from crying. I was just wondering if there were any new listings we could look at soon. There was a pause. Actually, something just came up yesterday. It's different from what you said you were looking for, so I wasn't sure if I should mention it. For some reason, I felt a flutter of excitement. I want to see it. We set up a time for Monday after work. As I hung up, I glanced at the bracelet I'd tossed onto my coffee table, the one Kate had rejected so dramatically. I picked it up, the silver K-charm catching the light. Your loss, I said aloud and clasped it around my own wrist instead. It fit perfectly. Monday morning, I threw myself into work with unusual intensity. By 4 p.m., I was watching the clock, eager to meet David at the mysterious apartment. He'd texted me the address earlier. It was in Henderson Heights, an eclectic neighborhood I'd always liked but hadn't considered living in. It was a bit farther from work than I'd planned, but suddenly that didn't seem important. David was waiting outside when I arrived, leaning against his car in front of a brick building with large windows. It looked like an old warehouse that had been converted into apartments. He led me through a small but elegant lobby with exposed brick walls and up to the 3rd floor. It's a corner unit, he explained, unlocking the door, which means lots of natural light. The moment I stepped inside, I felt it, that unexplainable feeling when something just fits. The apartment wasn't what I told David I wanted. I'd been looking for something modern, sleek, and conventional. This was different. The ceilings were high with exposed wooden beams. The living area flowed into an open kitchen with concrete countertops and a rustic island. 2 large windows faced west, promising spectacular sunsets. There was a small balcony, just big enough for a couple of chairs and a plant or two. The bedroom's through here, David said, leading me down a short hallway. And there's a home office nook in the corner. I know you mentioned wanting space to work from home sometimes. The bedroom was cozy but not cramped, with another large window and a walk-in closet that made me gasp. I've never had a walk-in closet before, I admitted, already imagining organizing my clothes by color and season. Bathrooms en suite, David continued, pushing open another door to reveal a surprisingly spacious bathroom with a clawfoot tub and separate shower. Why isn't this place being snapped up? I asked suspiciously. What's wrong with it? David laughed. Nothing's wrong with it. The owner got transferred overseas suddenly and needs to sell quickly. It's priced to move fast. The building's solid. I checked all the inspection reports. Great HOA too, from what I can tell. I walked back to the living room and stared out the window at the neighborhood below. People walking dogs, a small cafe on the corner with outdoor seating, trees lining the street. It felt alive, vibrant. I turned back to face the apartment, taking it all in again. I think it might be exactly what I need. How soon can we make an offer? The next 2 weeks passed in a whirlwind of paperwork, inspections, and phone calls. The seller accepted my offer within hours. Apparently, David hadn't been exaggerating about their need to sell quickly. The mortgage approval went through without a hitch, thanks to my excellent credit score and the substantial down payment I'd been saving for years. Through it all, I still hadn't heard from my family. Once, I almost called my mom when I signed the final paperwork, the excitement bubbling up and needing somewhere to go. Instead, I called my friends and a few coworkers I was close with. Their genuine excitement for me was exactly what I needed. We have to have a housewarming party, my friend Tasha insisted when I gave her a virtual tour via video call. Definitely, I agreed. Once I've got some furniture in here. Furnishing the apartment became my new obsession. I spent evenings browsing online for the perfect pieces that would complement the space's unique character. I splurged on a gorgeous sectional sofa for the living room and a sturdy farmhouse-style dining table. I found vintage-looking bar stools for the kitchen island at a steal and ordered a king-sized bed, an upgrade from the queen I'd had for years. The day I moved in, a few friends helped me with the heavy lifting. By evening, my bed was assembled, my clothes were hanging in my beautiful closet, and my kitchen essentials were unpacked. I ordered pizza for everyone as a thank you, and we ate sitting on my new sofa, drinking beer from the bottles because I hadn't unpacked my glasses yet. Over the next week, I continued unpacking and organizing. I hung artwork, arranged books on shelves, and placed plants strategically near windows. Each day, the apartment felt more like home. Once everything was in place, I decided Tasha was right. I needed a proper housewarming party. I created a guest list of about 15 people, friends, coworkers, my neighbor across the hall who'd already been so welcoming. Noticeably absent were any family members, no Kate, no mom and dad, none of the relatives who'd witnessed my humiliation at the birthday party. The thought gave me pause. Was I being petty? Should I at least tell my parents about the apartment? But then I remembered it had been nearly a month since Kate's birthday, and not one member of my family had reached out to check on me. The decision made itself. I sent out digital invitations for the following Saturday evening. The responses came quickly, almost everyone could make it. I planned a casual buffet with finger foods, a selection of wines and beers, and a signature cocktail I'd name after my new address. The housewarming party was everything I'd hoped for. My friends filled my new home with laughter and genuine joy. Tasha brought a small potted plant for good luck. My coworker Mike gifted me a set of fancy wine glasses. And my new neighbor, Emma, brought homemade cookies that disappeared within minutes. We took dozens of Polaroid photos throughout the night. By the end of the evening, they were spread across my kitchen island, snapshots of friends posing on my new couch, making silly faces in front of my brick wall, raising glasses and countless toasts. I posted a few digital photos on social media the next morning, showing off my new place with pride. I didn't think twice about it until my phone rang Monday afternoon. Mom's name flashed on the screen. After a month of silence, she was suddenly calling. I stared at my phone, heart pounding, before finally answering. Hello. Monica, my mother's voice was sharp, accusatory. When were you planning to tell us you bought an apartment? No hello, no how are you, just straight to the attack. I wasn't, I answered honestly, surprising myself with my calm tone. What do you mean you weren't? We're your family. How could you not tell us about something this important? The last time I saw my family, you all humiliated me and Dad told me to leave. That seemed pretty clear. You're overreacting, Mom scoffed. It was just a little disagreement. That's no reason to keep secrets and exclude us from your housewarming party. I took a deep breath. It wasn't a little disagreement. Kate threw my gift back at me. You all sided with her and nobody has contacted me for a month. Mom tried to say something else, but I cut her off. I need to go. I'm at work. Then I hung up. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a call from Kate. I declined it. She immediately called back. I declined again. Then the texts started rolling in. Kate, pick up your phone. How dare you buy an apartment and not tell me? You give me a cheap bracelet for my birthday, but had money for an apartment? You owe me a real gift now. At least $5,000. I nearly choked on my coffee reading that last one. The audacity was breathtaking. I didn't respond to any of her messages, but they kept coming. Mom started texting too, and even Dad joined in by evening. For days, my phone buzzed constantly with their messages, each one more demanding than the last. They called me selfish, scheming, dishonest. Kate even claimed in one text that I had been the one who suggested the no expensive gifts rule last Christmas, a complete rewriting of history. After a week of this harassment, I'd had enough. I sat down at my new desk and composed 3 separate emails, one to Mom, one to Dad, and one to Kate. The message was essentially the same to each of them. I needed space from our relationship. I explained that their behavior at Kate's birthday and their subsequent harassment had shown me that they didn't respect me, and until that changed, I needed distance. I felt lighter after hitting send, like I'd finally set down a heavy weight I'd been carrying. For 2 blissful days, there was silence. Then came the pounding on my door. It was Saturday morning. I was still in my pajamas, sipping coffee and reading on my couch, when the aggressive knocking startled me. I approached cautiously and looked through the peephole. My parents and Kate stood in the hallway. I briefly considered pretending I wasn't home, but they'd probably just keep coming back. Better to face them now. I unlocked the door but kept the security chain on, opening it just a crack. How did you find my address? I asked. Your cousin Jen told us, Mom said. Now let us in. We need to talk. Mental note. Remove Jen from all future guest lists. I don't think that's a good idea, I said. Monica, you're overreacting, Dad said in his authoritative voice. Let us in so we can sort this out like adults. I closed the door, removed the chain, and reopened it. They filed in, looking around my apartment with critical eyes. This is interesting, Mom said, clearly meaning the opposite. Kate rolled her eyes. So this is why you couldn't afford a decent birthday gift. I could afford a decent gift, I replied calmly. I gave you one. You threw it back at me. You're blowing everything out of proportion, Mom said. We came to tell you that you're being ridiculous. This silent treatment, these dramatic emails, this isn't how family behaves. I agree, I said. Family doesn't humiliate each other at birthday parties. Family doesn't kick members out for giving gifts within an agreed-upon price range. Family doesn't demand $5,000 gifts after finding out someone bought property. We might have overreacted a little at the party, Dad admitted. But you're the one who escalated by not inviting us to your housewarming and keeping this whole apartment purchase a secret. That wasn't escalation. That was a consequence. See? Kate threw up her hands. She's impossible. She thinks she's done nothing wrong. I didn't say that, I replied. But I'm not the one who needs to apologize first. They stared at me like I'd grown a second head. The idea that they should apologize seemed genuinely foreign to them. I think you should leave, I said after a long silence. Monica, Mom started. No, I interrupted. I meant what I said in my emails. I need space from all of you. You're not ready to acknowledge how you hurt me, and I'm not ready to pretend everything's fine when it isn't. You can't just cut off your family, Dad said sternly. I'm not cutting you off. I'm setting a boundary. There's a difference. They left reluctantly, with Mom turning at the last moment. This isn't over, Monica. After they were gone, I sank onto my couch, shaking slightly. Standing up to them had been harder than I expected, but it also felt necessary, like the final step in claiming my new life. The fallout from my family's unwelcome visit was swift and predictable. Within hours, my phone was blowing up, not just with texts from Mom, Dad, and Kate, but from aunts, uncles, and cousins I barely spoke to. Your mother is very upset, wrote Aunt Diane. Family should stick together no matter what, texted Uncle Robert. Let me mediate between you and your parents, offered Cousin Mark. I didn't respond to any of them. It was clear Mom had unleashed the entire extended family on me, hoping the pressure would make me cave. Classic manipulation tactic, one I'd seen her use on others, but never experienced myself. After a few days of this bombardment, I started declining calls from numbers I didn't recognize and set up filters on my email. The constant criticism was exhausting, and I needed it to stop. Tasha noticed something was wrong when we met for coffee that weekend. You seem stressed, she said, studying my face. Everything okay with the new place? I gave her the condensed version of the past few weeks. Kate's birthday disaster, the silent treatment, the ambush at my apartment, and the subsequent family campaign. That's toxic as hell, Tasha said bluntly when I finished. No wonder you didn't invite them to the housewarming. Am I overreacting, though? I asked, voicing the doubt that had been gnawing at me despite my resolve. They're my family. Being family doesn't give them the right to treat you like garbage, Tasha said. You set a completely reasonable boundary. If they can't respect that, it's on them, not you. Hearing someone else validate my feelings was exactly what I needed. For so long, I'd been made to feel like I was too sensitive, too demanding, too difficult whenever I stood up for myself and my family. Having an outside perspective helped me see how warped that dynamic truly was. The barrage of messages gradually slowed over the next couple of weeks. My parents tried a new tactic, sending casual texts as if nothing had happened. Saw this and thought of you. Mom texted with a picture of a coffee mug. How's work going? Dad messaged out of the blue. I responded with brief, polite answers, but didn't engage further. Kate, meanwhile, had apparently given up on me entirely. She'd posted a long, vague rant on social media about toxic people who pretend to be victims that was clearly aimed at me, though she never mentioned me by name. A month after their surprise visit, I received a text from Mom. Family dinner this Sunday. Your sister misses you. I highly doubted Kate missed me, but I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me, the part that had been conditioned to keep the peace at all costs, wanted to accept, to slip back into old patterns, pretend everything was fine, and avoid the discomfort of conflict. But I knew better now. I'm not ready for that yet, I texted back. I need an acknowledgement of how you all treated me at Kate's birthday and afterward before we can move forward. Mom's response came quickly. That's all in the past. Can't we just move on? Not without addressing it first, I replied. She didn't respond after that. Weeks turned into months. The seasons changed, and I settled into a rhythm in my new home. I planted herbs on my small balcony, joined a book club that met at the cafe on the corner, and even started dating someone I met through a coworker. My family continued to reach out sporadically, always with invitations to events or casual check-ins, never with apologies or recognition of the real issues. I maintained my distance, responding politely but briefly, never initiating contact. It wasn't easy. There were days when I missed the idea of family, holidays, birthdays, the sense of belonging to something larger than myself. But then I'd remember how they'd actually made me feel. Small, inadequate, always slightly off balance. 6 months after I moved into my apartment, I received an unexpected email from Kate. The subject line was simply, "I've been thinking." I opened it cautiously, expecting another attack or guilt trip. Instead, I found something resembling reflection. "I've been in therapy," she wrote. "My therapist suggested I might have some issues with entitlement and jealousy." At first, I was offended, but the more we talked, the more I started to see some patterns, especially with you. "I'm not ready to say I was wrong about everything, but I'm starting to understand your perspective a little better. Maybe we could talk sometime." It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was more self-awareness than I'd ever seen from my sister. I wrote back that I was willing to meet for coffee, neutral territory, not at my apartment or our parents' house. We met the following weekend. The conversation was awkward, stilted, nothing like the easy banter we'd had as kids, but it was a start. Kate admitted that she'd always felt competitive with me, that she'd gotten used to being the favorite, and that my apartment purchase had triggered her insecurities. "For what it's worth," Kate added, "I'm sorry about the bracelet. It was actually really pretty." It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, and we had a long way to go before I'd trust her again. But it was something, a small crack in the wall that had formed between us. As for my parents, I'm still waiting. Maybe someday they'll recognize how their behavior affected me. Maybe they won't. I've made peace with either possibility. What matters is that I've found my own space, both physically in my apartment and emotionally in my life. I've surrounded myself with people who respect my boundaries and value me for who I am. I've learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about how people treat you.